So he found it. I appreciate you. How you doing, Jamie?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. We'll get you all settled in here, ready to talk some hockey. On a game night, by the way, for the Flames with the Seattle Kraken in town. And I got to tell our listeners that last hour, if you missed it, Shane Knighty of the Golden Knights broadcast crew was with us previewing the big game in Vancouver tonight for Vegas. So it's playoff hockey there. There you go. Are you getting them good?
Go maybe reverse and maybe not very often I have these in my ears.
Gotcha. If we have to switch them over to headphones, we'll do that. You found it. You're good.
Yeah, I was at the wrong door, apparently. Wouldn't be the first time. So,
like I say, it's a little confusing around here. Are you familiar with Grey Eagle?
I've been here a couple times.
It's a cool spot.
For some functions. Yes, it was nice. So I checked the door. It was locked, so I figured, obviously a day like today with the weather, go inside the casino, go in through the inside, and obviously that was a mistake.
But it's busy over there. This place rocks 24/7, man. I love it. Well, Jamie, I'm sorry to I said I was a little excited. I'm a longtime fan here to have you on, so I appreciate you coming down to chat hockey. Are you getting any vibe of Flames days of old in the city now with how good this team is?
Well, you know what? It's been a long time. 2004 was kind of a Cinderella story where they kind of came out of nowhere and went obviously all the way to the finals, and probably should have won that one. But, for a lot of years, it's been kind of a one or two man show here. You've had, Jerome McGinley and Mika Kiprusoff. Between the two of them, they could carry, pretty well any team. And when Kipper was on and Jerome was on, I mean, they were still fun to watch. It was great. It was a great atmosphere. But for the layperson, you don't realize the deficiencies in the teams. This team right now, the way they're plugging along, I don't want to say flying along because Sutter would be mad, right? Nothing can be fancy with him. Just plugging along, do your job. And these guys are playing well. There's a lot of guys out there that are pulling on the same rope at the same time. And, I'll use Milan Lucic as maybe the best example. A lot of people that don't follow hockey kind of go like, why is he even on the team? Why is that guy there? Well, you know what? Every time he's on the ice, something's happening, right? And and he's got a bunch of goals, and he brings a real spark to the team. And any good team, whether you have superstars or not, if you don't have those, third line guys, the fourth line guys playing well, you're not going anywhere. Would
you compare him then to a Tim Hunter in '89? Who would have been that guy in '89?
You
have a bunch?
Well, it's interesting because, right now, if you were to, even though I believe Calgary's probably the toughest they've been for at least a decade. They've got a number of guys that are willing to hit, a number of guys that are willing to get in the middle of it and take a punch, give a punch, those sorts of things. And that's what you need. The hockey purists, that out there, or at least they think they're hockey purists, they always go, back in the old days with Montreal or back in the old days with Toronto, those were, skilled teams and everything. Yeah, they had skill, but they were also the toughest team in the league. And, when Philadelphia won, they were the toughest. When Boston was winning, they had tough guys. And when Toronto and Montreal were winning, they had tough guys as well. So you just can't, even in this new game, you can't win without being team tough. And, I guess the big question, if you were to go north, 3 hours from here, with the superstars that Edmonton has, are they tough enough to win? Are they good enough to win? And I think if you were to look at the both teams right now, I think everyone would probably acknowledge that McDavid is a little bit of step above what Calgary has, and Draisaitl's playing incredible. But I think most people right now would say that Calgary's the better team, and over a 7-game series, Calgary would win.
But it's interesting because we've been up here a lot this winter doing the show from here, and at the first half of the season, the Flames couldn't beat Edmonton. And then the last two, you've killed them here, right? So I don't know what's changed, just the metamorphosis of a team through a season or what. You know what I'm saying? Because the Flames people were saying our kryptonite's the Oilers.
Well, it's always been, back when I played, Calgary had a pretty strong team. I came in '83 and they very quickly got a lot stronger. But you still had to go through Edmonton. The whole Smythe division back then was strong. Vancouver had good teams. Winnipeg had good teams. And unfortunately for Winnipeg and Vancouver, they get overlooked a lot simply because they never made it to the finals. They never, won a cup. But they were strong teams. And, what's the difference? Obviously, even though I played a lot of games, I'm not in that dressing room right now. I don't know what's the difference, but I think part of it has to be the comfort level of your superstars or stars, if you want to call them here. Johnny and Lindholm and Kachuk and who just start going down. Those guys feel comfortable going out there because they know that if they go into the corners, if something happens, they've got guys on their team that are going to back them. And everybody who doesn't really play the game thinks, "Oh, I would do it." Like I'm not scared of anybody. But when you're getting your head hammered into the glass, and it takes a toll on you.
Not a lot of fun.
No, it's not, and you get the odd cut, and it does take a toll on you. And I think maybe that's the big difference right now. Our best line is really comfortable right now. They're playing well, and our second line's comfortable. And then you start looking down and like, well, what's our third or fourth line doing? They're hustling, and they're really giving her. I mean, they're maybe not having quite as much success in scoring, but it's a tough line to play against. This is a rhetorical, maybe dumb question, but I'm famous for those. One of the first things out of your mouth was the 2004 Stanley Cup Final when you sat down here. And one thing I've noticed is they're not over it here. They may never get over it. If they won the Stanley Cup with this team or down the line, would it make some people get over it? I don't. Just answer that, and then I'll go. Well, Rhett Warner's on our alumni or with our alumni,
yeah.
And some of the most fun that we have is bugging him about the fact he didn't win a cup. It's like, I think he went to the finals 3 times and unfortunately didn't win it any of the times. But that's all just good-natured humor. But I think the reality is if the cameras were set up the way they are now, the puck was clearly over. But, what do? You play with the rules of the day. And Calgary probably should have been the winner there in Game 6. And, that might have made a bit of a difference for some of the, I hate to say long-suffering fans, but because there's Toronto down the way a little bit, has been a little bit longer. But I think Calgary, fans, the ones who have been sticking with the team for, thick and thin, realize that this team is strong. I mean, are we as good as Colorado, who seems to be the class of the West? We'll find out, right? Hopefully we'll find out. And are we, the good news is that once you get to the finals, you don't have to go through, Pittsburgh and Washington and Florida and Tampa and Carolina. You only have to go through one, right? You're just one team. So if you get to the finals, it's one team versus one other team. Depending upon the injuries, depending upon the confidence, anything can happen.
The reason I asked if it would help people get over it was I was the voice of the Rough Riders for 20 years, and I called the Grey Cup here the 13th man. The last play of the game, we got too many men, right? And we lose the game. We ended up winning it in 2013, but you don't get over it because that's a different team, right? So Kipper, Rich Preston, any of those guys with the team in 2004, you don't ever get over that. Well, the fans might be able to, but
yeah, it's opportunity lost. I mean, I think I don't know how I made the NHL. I was just very fortunate. I just seemed to bounce back and forth and ended up getting signed and played for a lot of years. But for the majority of the people, especially back in the Western Hockey League, it's a lot of work to get to the NHL. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're sacrificing home life, you're sacrificing your high school sometimes, and then you get on those buses and you're spending 8, 10, 12, 14-hour trips. And so anybody who makes it to the NHL after going through that Major A route, and especially in the West, you deserve, a little pat on the back because it's a tough hole. And, so with all that in mind and finally get to the finals, maybe the only time for a majority of the guys that were on the team and to lose it that way, or maybe I should say to not win it that way, it's still got to grind them a little bit.
Well, if you ask how you made the NHL, you were never minus ever in Calgary. Never. That happened in Toronto a little bit, minus 14. I watched, Jamie. I know what type of player you were, obviously, but those great Flames teams, you must feel kind of blessed, I would think. Part of that.
I was pretty lucky. Talked to different guys who've played, and some of the guys played for like 7 or 8 different teams because they were either just good enough to get traded for, or maybe just not good enough to be on the team, so they were traded away. I came to Calgary in '83, just when Calgary was starting to get strong. We had a really strong team for a lot of years, and then I got traded away. Dougie Riseborough didn't like my style of play, I guess, or something.
Didn't like strong defensive play.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you said it. But I think if you were to ask Doug, that he was trying to make a mark, and a lot of GMs when they first get in, especially in their first couple of years, they want to make a mark and prove, hey, I'm as good as all the rest of the GMs out there, so I'm going to make this bold move. If Lehman, didn't hit the crossbar and the post a few times and got his confidence back, maybe everything changes, but he didn't. And, the interesting thing was, reporters, maybe yourself included, they do a lot of research that hockey players don't. And I remember coming back a year later to Calgary, and they said, hey, do you realize, and I don't know how many points I had, like 17 or something, or not many. Anyways, they said, you have more points than all the other guys that were traded from Toronto to Calgary right now. And I said, I'm going like, Lehman? Like it was just, unfortunately, it was just a terrible turn of events for the Calgary Flames, because they ended up getting 5 guys. And after about 2 years, the only guy there was Berube. And he was there, obviously, to be more physical and not a goal scorer. And, Dougie Gilmour just kind of came into his own. I was lucky enough to play quite a few more years. So it is a bit of a lopsided trade. And really put Calgary behind for a lot of years. And I think that's something that if you were to ask me what's the number one question I get asked, it's either like, hey, what's it like to win the Cup, and which Cup was better, Calgary or Detroit? And then maybe the third most asked question is about the trade. And I try to be polite and everything, but it was a mistake, I think. I think if we hadn't traded Dougie away, and hopefully myself, I could have contributed as well, that Calgary would have stayed stronger for a lot more years and maybe had another 2 or 3 chances to at least take a run at the Cup.
Right. Well, look at the path that it set the Flames on for the entire 90s. They didn't come out of it for 10, 15 years, right? After that. But look, we're going to break. Can you stay for one more segment?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So we covered the Flames side of things. When we come back, you mentioned Doug Gilmour. We'll talk about the Leafs side of things for you and the Wings. And I did a banquet with Killer in Moose Jaw one night, and I said, would you mind opening it up to the crowd for questions? And he said, yes, but no questions about the high stick in 93. Still wouldn't talk about it.
He's bitter.
Tell you what, this has been better than I even imagined. Jamie Macoun here. Flames great, Leafs great, Red Wings great, 2-time Stanley Cup champion. I'll open it up to your questions now, because I selfishly wanted to get my questions out for Jamie. And I told him that there's a town in Saskatchewan named Macoun. And you got a story behind that. You got to tell the viewers what you just told me.
Yeah, I was actually driving through a number of years ago through Saskatchewan on the way back home. I figured I'd take the family and do everything, and then I didn't even realize where I was going. Drove right into Macoun or Macoun, and it's not a big town. It has like a co-op gas station / convenience store, and it's a farming area. And so I actually went in there. They were just celebrating their 100th anniversary, I believe it was. And so I went in there and said, listen, do you have anything that has the name on it, like a sweater or jackets or anything? And I guess, they only make so many of them. And the only thing they had left was lighters. So I bought like a dozen lighters with Macoun on them. But I had to explain to them that it's Macoun, not Macoun. And then they told me I didn't know what I was talking about. So I said, all right, I'm good with that.
But it's named after a relation of yours.
Yeah, it is. It's named after a relative on my dad's side, obviously. And he was working for the British government way back when, and he was a botanist. And, good news, bad news is he's one of the reasons why the capital of Alberta is in Edmonton versus Calgary, because when he came out for a couple of years, Calgary was having a real dry spell, and Edmonton was all lush and green. And so, it's not like you flew out every day on the plane. They said, oh, Edmonton, lush, Calgary, no good. Yeah, no good.
Wow.
That's a little interesting.
As a botanist, yeah. Well, and the thing is, we'll be in Estevan broadcasting this show live May 20th to the 29th, Centennial Cup, and Craig Button and I will be speaking at the Estevan Bruins Annual Sportsman's Dinner Thursday, May 26th. So get your tickets. It'll be in the Power Dodge Curling Center. So, I'm sorry, I'm just such a hockey nerd. You mentioned the Western Hockey League guys getting to the NHL. You were a junior A guy who went the college route. Was that an easy decision for you?
Very easy because actually, I didn't go major A. I went junior A. And,
That's what I meant. Yeah,
but the people out in the West don't realize that. They go, "What do you mean you're in A or you're not in A?" Like it's like, well, out there was so much population, so many towns. You had a lot of junior A, junior B, junior C. Then you had major A. And I played on a hockey team growing up. We had a small town of about 11,000 when I first moved in there into Newmarket, and just by the grace of God, had, like 8, 9 guys that all played at the same time. We went all the way up together on what we called the travel team, and we went to the all Ontario finals 6 times, won it 5 times. Like we just had an incredibly good team. And come first year of midget, we had a couple guys say, "Oh, you should go play second year. Bump yourself up, get ready for major." I didn't go that route, and the 2 of our guys did, and they were quite good on our team. And then they both had an opportunity to go to major A, and it didn't work out well. There was just a very physical sport back then, and lots of fighting, and our guys just weren't ready. And I shouldn't say that it crushed them, but it kind of took the spirit out of them. And I was relatively strong in school, so I had an opportunity to go down to a number of different schools, and for whatever reason, I picked Ohio State. Just met some guys, watched the game, talked to them afterwards, and I had no clue what I wanted to do in my life. And they said, "Well, you can be, at this university, it's a state school, so you can be a doctor, a lawyer, you can be whatever you want." And so that's how I picked it. And just one thing led to another, and I actually got injured my second year, blew my knee out, had full reconstruction, and that, even though it was a painful situation, that was the reason I made the NHL, because for the first time ever, I actually worked out. And,
Because you had to, yeah.
I had to. I was just one of those guys. I was very lucky. I was naturally in shape, if you want to call it that, a little bit better than now. And that's the first time I actually worked out, and I did a lot of squats and a lot of bench press and stuff. And so starting year 3, very first game, we were, I can't remember, Michigan State, wherever we were, I hit a kid, and he kind of went through the glass, and the glass shattered and what have you. And then my coach at the end of that first game says, "Okay, give me until Christmas." And I'm looking at him going like, "Well, give you for what? What have I done? I'm sorry. I'll start all over. What did I do wrong?" And he says, "No." He says, "All those guys up in there, those are scouts for the NHL, and they were there to look at the guy you just threw through the glass." And so I said, "Okay, well, I will give you till Christmas." And then I'll wait until Sunday, because you got to wait till Sunday to get the cheap telephone call. And then I called my parents and said, "Yeah, there's a chance that I might have it, to go to the NHL or something." And I still, and then as a couple more games went along, more scouts showed up, and then I realized the opportunity was real.
I'm going to fast forward a bit in your career, because I just looked up the Wikipedia of Jamie Macoun, and for our younger viewers, they won't understand this. I'm going to read a paragraph about your trade, okay? From your Wikipedia. Midway through the season, Macoun was involved in a blockbuster trade centered on Doug Gilmour that was, at the time, the largest in NHL history. Have you read this? I mean, you knew it. You were part of it.
Yeah.
This is what it says. On January 2nd, 1992, Calgary sent Doug Gilmour, Jamie Macoun, Rick Nattrass, Rick Wamsley, and Kent Manderville to the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for Gary Lehman, Craig Berube, Alexander Godinyak, Michel Petit, and Jeff Reese. The 10-player deal was credited as being the catalyst to a significant improvement in Toronto's fortunes on the ice. And it sent the Flames going the other way. So you fast forward to the 90th. You didn't want to go to Toronto, is the sense that I'm getting.
Well, no, and nobody did, and it sounds silly, but the Calgary Flames ownership group back in the day I was here, we're all really good family people, and I'll give you a quick example. People won't understand this. I got a slap shot, broke my orbital bone, and they had to wrap me up. So I spent like 7 days in the hospital with my eyes wrapped. A little concerned of actually losing sight. And while I'm there, one of the owner's wives had gone and baked cookies. Her name was Becky Hotchkiss, and she's an incredible cook. And she baked cookies and some, breads and stuff, came to the hospital, sat with me for like 2 hours, holding my hand, talking to me about stuff. I was like 23, 24. And, I'm telling people this later on, like people that have been traded to Calgary or Toronto, like, this is what happens in Calgary. And they're going like, I don't think I ever met my owner. Like, I don't even know who he is. And so because of that, a lot of the guys in Calgary never wanted to leave because we were treated very fairly. And this might sound stupid now because the numbers are so different. I offered Doug Riseborough, I said, I will sign a 3-year deal for $1 million, like not $1 million per year, $1 million total. And it was all in Canadian dollars. And I said, I just, let me do this and a couple of little things I wanted to do. And obviously that was no good. I was as he put it, I was no damn good. So I get traded to Toronto, and within a month I've signed like a $3 million US deal. And I'm going like,
makes it a little better.
I think I should have been traded all along.
Right. But here's what I don't get, and I want to get to the 93 Eastern, or I guess it would be Western final, but I'm surrounded by all these young Leaf fans. Our producer, Clark, who you've been dealing with, my co-host, Darren, who's not here today, but they're all young, but they're Leaf fans. And I look at it and go, how could you be Leaf fans? For instance, I just did a dinner with Lanny Saturday night in Assiniboia. Lanny doesn't even want to talk about the Leaf days. Rick Vive would rather not really talk about the Leaf days. You know what I mean? Because I grew up with them being a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
But I guess the kids don't see it that way. I don't know. They've kind of... But they still haven't won anything. I don't see how the Leafs are so popular, Jamie, is what I'm getting at.
Well,
even now they are.
Well, you have what do you got? About 8 million people?
That's what it is?
8 million people within 2 hours of Toronto?
Well, they have to be if they're from there. It's the Western Canadian Leaf fans that I don't get.
Well, they said my dad grew up a Leaf fan, and he moved from Ontario.
That must be it.
Stuff. And I mean, when I was growing up, I was a Leaf fan, but I was also a Montreal fan because my older brother was a Leaf fan, right? So you couldn't go for the same guys. And like I've met quite a few people when I was down in Toronto, obviously, when like a Daryl Sittler and,
right.
And some of the older guys that you see in all the old pictures. All so nice. I mean, that's one thing that I guess they didn't get beat out of them by the owners down there is the fact that they were brought up as good people and they stayed good people. And I played in the old Maple Leaf Gardens, and one of the first days I remember getting out and saying, "Oh, I got to go on hockey night in Canada." I'm going, "Oh, where do I have to go?" And you go, "Oh, it's right there." Like you literally walk 6 feet. And
the old place,
underneath the stands, right. Where it's like stuff's dripping down, and in that one little area where Ron and Don Cherry were, that was the only dry area, right? And but playing in the Gardens was just incredible. The fans were right there, and you could hear everything. So if you're having a good game, you heard it. If you're having a bad game, you heard that too.
Miss it. Well, yeah, and I remember when I was there, Harold Ballard was long past, but the Ballard's bunker was still there as the vaunted where he watched the games, right? So obviously you didn't want to go, but it ended up being great for you, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, my dad lived up the street there in Newmarket, and I had just had a child, or no, I didn't. My wife did,
right?
And so the child was like 2 days old when we got traded. And it's funny because the nurses at the hospital here were saying, "You got to call the office. They want to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." And no, you got to call. And I said, "I've been traded." They would not trade you. Like, there's no way they would trade you, right? And I go, I've been traded, because why else would you call at 6:30 in the morning to a hospital? It's like, I said, don't worry about it. Somebody will call me to tell me where I've been traded to. And as it turned out, it was Dougie Gilmour's wife. And she was freaking out and like, we've been all traded. And I'm going like, who's we? Like, because I didn't know anything about it. Yeah. And sure enough, she gave me the list of who got traded. And I was thinking to myself, obviously, you're a little boastful about yourself. Hey, I'm pretty important here, and whatever. But I didn't think that the trade was fair right out of the gate. And obviously, as you mentioned earlier, as it turned out, the Calgary guys that went to Toronto all had a fair bit of success, and unfortunately, some of the guys that came west did not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so can you please just tell again the young viewers and refresh my memory why Doug Gilmour would say no questions on the 93 Gretzky Highstick?
You know what? We had, I think, if I remember correctly, that game where we were in L.A., and it was a good series. It was a very good series. The L.A. was playing maybe above their weight. I guess Wayne has a way of doing that. Essentially, we had gone, the whole game without a penalty, and L.A. hadn't had a penalty. It was just one of those tough physical games that went on. And then I believe it was Glenn Anderson got a 5-minute boarding penalty, with like 3 minutes to go or 2 minutes to go in the game. And we're all going like, you can't be calling a penalty now. Like, come on. Anyway, so very quickly after that, Dougie and Wayne Gretzky were facing off. And in the act of the face-off, somehow Gretzky clipped Dougie Gilmour right, between the eyes and cut him. And the rules back then were very clear. You cut somebody, it's 5 in game. Yeah. And we're thinking, well, we just got a 5. I think it's only and with one of our better players, and now Gretzky's out, maybe the better player, but still, he just got and the ref, who I guess you should
say it.
Yeah, he just what?
Bill McCreary?
No.
Koharski?
No.
Who was it?
Who's got the best hair?
Kerry Fraser?
Kerry Fraser.
Oh, terrible referee, in my opinion.
Well, you know what? I won't say it, but the point being is like the face-offs there, when you're dropping the puck, that's where everybody is looking. So there's no way you couldn't know. And I was right on the ice. I was 4 feet from him. Like, hey, I think he just got it in the face. And there's no blood. Well, you carry on, but there was blood, and the rules are very clear because they were really trying to. The NHL was really trying to lock down on the high sticking. And so we're going like, okay, you just kicked our guy out. And it turns out that, Gretzky was instrumental in scoring that, and changing the complex of that game. And then he finally, after 7 games back in Toronto, Gretzky breaks out, right? We had kept him in check for 6 games, basically. And we had, we were 100% confident that we could go into Montreal and beat Montreal. Like, we just knew we were going to do it. We matched better up against them, obviously, than LA did. But it's one of those things now that you go like, well, you're just saying that. And if you're a Montreal fan, you say you never would have won, right? Of course
they're going to say that. Yeah. What a series that would have been. It would have been the greatest of all time.
Yeah, it would have been the last time ever it would have happened, right? Because now they're both in the same division. Yeah,
exactly. Well, in the minute we have left, the question you said you get a lot is, what's the better cup, Calgary or Detroit? 98 in Detroit had to be incredibly special.
Well, it was incredible because you win the cup. I went to the finals in '86. I went to the cup and finals and won it in '89. And you think, hey, every couple of years I'll be back, right? Even though you realize some guys have never made it to the finals. And it was a long stretch. And we went to the semifinals twice with Toronto. But it still took a long time to get back. So it was fun to be back playing, at that high level. Washington was our opponent. Washington was good, but they just were, like I said, a step below where Detroit was. Detroit had so many weapons, Fedorov and Yzerman and Shanahan for 3. And then they had Lidstrom and Larry Murphy on defense, right? And then Bob Rouse and I were the second pair or the defensive pair. It was a pretty strong team.
And you swept them, right?
Yeah, we swept them in 4. Yeah. So it wasn't quite the same. But the best part about it was a year later, we went to Washington to go to see the White House, and you land like an hour early. It only takes you 25 minutes to get to the White House, but the police deliberately wait like 40 minutes so that they can get the sirens going, and we're going like 85 miles an hour in a school bus essentially towards the White House, and they're kicking cars, and the police are kicking cars. Get over. And here you are with all these millionaire hockey players, and they've all got their heads out the windows, just watching the scene go on. And then
God bless America.
And then we We arrive at the White House, and it's like, oh yeah, we still got 15 minutes. It's like, so I tell that story, and people go like, why? What? And I said, it's the VIP.
It's a motorcade.
Motorcade, yeah. And that's what it is. So,
and that was the Clinton with the legendary Steve Yzerman. Right, we had the jersey. Yeah. We're going to welcome Steve Yzerman to the White House.
That was the year before. That was the second year. Yeah, okay. And didn't know the name, didn't know anything. You figure one of his helpers would have figured out how to say, "Hey, this guy's one of the most important guys in the league. You should at least know his name, right?"
Yeah, exactly.
But it was fun. I got to see the White House, and that was also almost as exciting as winning it.
What a life.
Yeah.
Jamie, this has been amazing. Thank you for coming down. I hope we can do it again.
Give me a call.
Absolutely. Jamie Macoun, Calgary Flames great, 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of the Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.